So this marks the conclusion of the 7-part series. You talk about joining the Improbable Players, a group of people in recovery with shows about addiction performed by actors who've actually been through it. You mentioned acting has been a great outlet for you. How has it been different from you being a musician and like those two different roles? Has that like fulfilled different things in your life?
Yeah, for sure. So the acting stuff, it's and I think I addressed this at the beginning of the episode there. I actually I was in a play really before I even started playing guitar. So it's always something that I wanted to do, and it's different from music in that it's kind of like just, whereas in music I've been more of like a team player.
Right.
This kind of stuff, it's sort of like just me and like my thing, and it's just a different skill, it's definitely, I'm still very like pretty like not new, but it's still something I'm learning so much from. But yeah, it's just like a different kind of performance.
And you mentioned giving a performance that had and having a moment with a Muslim woman who was in the audience that thanked you. Why was that so impactful to have a young Muslim kind of share that with you? And you said that was a moment you felt like your struggle mattered, and you were heavily impacted by it.
Yeah, I mean, she literally didn't speak English, and it was just for me like saying Muslim, and just like acting out and miming out the things that happen, in to a family. So and it seemed like maybe there's like, because for many of us that are like performers, like we have this need to tell stories or to just like to do something that is, something important, and like I feel like that was a moment where I was like, oh, like, yeah, I'm doing this acting thing for me, but maybe there's this whole other layer here as well, like this identity stuff too, which is important for people to see.
And during this time, obviously Trump is in office and has really emboldened others to speak negatively towards other marginalized groups. Were you kind of shocked that this was taking place and that politicians were almost like robotically following his lead and kind of spewing like the same hate?
I wasn't shocked, no. But by this point, I was like, no, this is. I mean, it's actually it's a little bit easier to deal with it if you're just like, no, this is embedded in the DNA of this country. And I think that previously the reason it was so shocking is because I didn't have to deal with that every day. Like I grew up in a very safe community. I drove around and smoked weed and listened to loud music my whole life without ever, being thrown in jail or ever even having that fear. So I'm just, so I think it's maybe easy is the wrong word, but if you can just accept that, like, no, this is who we, like, we're not this like rosy picture, right? Like this is just as much a part of this country as anything else, then you're sort of less shocked. I don't want to say that in a sense that you should be desensitized. I mean, that inevitably happens because of all these things, but no, I wasn't shocked. I was still horrified and upset when these things would happen, but it wasn't, it's not something that was like new.
And you speak with Kashif Sheikh, who's the founder and president of Pillars Fund.
Yeah.
And he actually shares some like more positive and hopeful perspectives about this time in the Trump era, and there being this boom of civil organizations, and he mentions a new crop of leaders and organizations. On what scale do you think that Trump really opened everyone's eyes to like the work that really needed to be done?
Yeah, I think it was, and he talked about this too in his interview, that like we're not trying to sit here and like give him credit for anything or center him in that sense, but yeah, at the end of the day, like if this fucking guy is your president, like you have to take a look at like what's going on, and again, from maybe more of a privileged perspective, it did sort of push people to finally like to finally get out and organize and start to just like have, not just have these conversations, but really like do stuff about it,
And you also talked with Serena Rasool, who's the actor and founder of Muslim Casting. And as an actor yourself, I was wondering, like, how crucial do you think her work is for the industry?
It's so crucial. I mean, I give her so much credit for, and I mentioned in the show that I had an audition where I didn't feel so good afterwards, but I told some friends about it, but like she started a fucking casting company, so like she went that extra mile and was like, no, I don't want to just tell people about it. Like, I want to actually do something to fix it. And that's like, I'm a part of her casting agency now, so I get like noticed. So it's like it's so amazing. I remember when that article came out and I was like, we have to talk to this person. This is so incredible that there is like Muslim American casting agency, who would have thought, when Dominic was getting started, or even when I was getting started, like we never could have imagined that.
And you also go on to speak about this wave of Muslim Americans running for office. You talk with Mahreen Butt and Afroz Khan, who was the first Muslim woman to serve on the Newburyport, Massachusetts City Council. And she mentioned that she felt like she was held to a higher standard almost because she was Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
How important was it for you to see Muslims take place in government when that kind of started to be more of like a popular thing that happened? And did you feel like this was kind of like a good sign that things were heading in somewhat of the right direction?
So yeah, for me, I mean, if I'm perfectly honest, for me, it's a little trickier when it comes to that stuff because it's like, just because a person is a Muslim who's in office, that is not enough. Like, we still have to be like, what is it that they stand for? Like, yeah, it's great that we have a seat at the table. Yes, it's actually a step further. I think there's one thing I said in the episode that in retrospect I might have phrased differently, where I said, and representation is what it's all about. I actually don't think that. I think that that is the first thing that it's about. It's then what are you going to do with this representation, right? It for sure, like, I'm a huge fan of Ilhan Omar and the squad and stuff, and so yeah, it's incredible. Like, if you asked me when I was like, I don't know, 15 or 16, if I would ever see like any of them in Congress or whatever, I would have been like, no way. And yeah, that's super cool, but we do have to kind of like, now that it's there, what's the next step?
And you also speak with Mona Masood, who's an outpatient psychiatrist in the greater Philadelphia area. You made a lot of connections and realizations while you were speaking with her. And I feel like that really shows the importance of, and you even mentioned this, having mental health professionals who were people of color and Muslim, different backgrounds. From what you talked about, what was one of the most poignant things that you took away from that conversation?
Oh man, that whole thing, so it was actually one of the earlier interviews that we did, that I think it was just me and her. I forget if I don't think Asa was on that one. As soon as it was over, I called him and I was like, dude, this is going to be the end. I don't know how. This has to be like, and then he went and listened. We both listened to it twice over the months, and we were like, we just realized, like, initially we were like, let's just release this whole conversation because it's so, but I knew that it was going to be a significant portion of the final episode. And it was just the whole thing. There's so many things that she said, like, and you can hear it like while I'm talking to her when she says you'll never be off the hook for something you never did. I think that's what it was. Yeah, just everything she would say was like, yeah, there was just something about talking to her in that context. And it did, like, I didn't just do this for like dramatic effect in the writing of the fucking episode. Like, it actually, while I was talking to her, I wasn't like, I don't want to say I was dissociating, but I was in sort of a hypnotic kind of thing with her, where it was just like, yeah, we were on a Zoom call, but I actually felt like I was really connecting with somebody.
And you also talked to your old teacher, Mr. Green. Was it comforting for him to tell you that, you know, like Acton and Boxborough was becoming a little more diverse of a community, and that they basically were kind of like shifting the curriculum to just showing more accurate representation?
Yeah, for sure. So it was actually the same. So we spoke once, and he mentioned it at all in the same interview. But he was one of the first people I interviewed, I think. But yeah, when he said that, you know, yeah, I was, and I'm actually going to my middle school in 2 weeks to talk to. There's two separate sessions that they love this podcast a lot. So I got a Facebook message from one of my old middle school teachers being like, "Hey, we really love King of the World. Do you want to come and talk to our students about you know, they didn't assign the podcast because let's just say it's a little more than G rated, but so yeah, it's incredible and it's not just AB that is taken it on as like a resource, but yeah, it seems like things are different, and yeah, like right away he was saying they took a look at, they wanted to take a look at kind of like how they were dealing with Islam and Muslim students, and just like the whole Islamophobia stuff. Acton Boxborough is it's a pretty privileged community in a lot of ways, so they're very fortunate to have caring and thoughtful teachers like Mr. Green.
Just to conclude, what was it like filming this last episode of the series? Like, what were you hoping to basically achieve with this last installment, and like wrapping up basically your life story?
Yeah, so we were down to the wire, to be perfectly honest with you. We had to, before we started King of the World, we had, I think, 3 episodes scripted and 1 recorded before we started releasing them in September. And then we were writing and editing them as we were going. And we, you know, initially we thought that this last one would come out on my birthday, October 13th, but we just realized we were driving ourselves crazy for no reason. So we did these 2 bonus episodes. But this one, and I my partner Lauren and I had bought a month before that, when we thought that it would be done by the 13th, I bought us flights to go to Toronto for the weekend and just hang out. And so I actually started writing this episode in the airport on the way there and on the way back. So it came together very, very quickly. And it was just, for anybody that has any kind of creative anything, you know, you can get into this sort of like flow state people talk about, you know, I don't want to get too abstract, but that's really what it felt with this, you know, because it was like there's no time left, like number one, like we have to, but then it just, everything started to make sense. It's like, oh, I remembered I can pull this quote out from here and that one there. And then Asad and Lindsay had their, you know, because the way it usually works is like I tend to script based on interviews that I've done and my story, and then Asad and Lindsay handle the facts, and then we end up doing 8-9 drafts before it's done. Okay. So it was madness getting this thing done, but it was just so, like, I knew that's the best part about a project like this, where you're scared to do it, you know, and you don't know if like it's gonna work. And this whole time, Asad and I had no idea what we were doing. Like, I mean, not no idea, but like, we've never done a podcast, you know, like, so we just went with our gut and stuff. And if you look back on it, it is like a really incredible thing that we've done. And I know that it's good and it's special and all that, but like, people like from all over are like, no, this is like super professional, like high level stuff. You guys should apply for awards or whatever. But you know, like, and I'm just so, I can't believe it. I thought that maybe we would get like 1 good episode. That was also what Asad was like, dude, if we can just do 1 good one, we're set, you know. And I really feel like each one of them is fantastic. So I'm just so thankful.